My name is Rachel Donovan, and I'm 34 years old. I've worn a uniform for over a decade. I've worked in shadow ops, cyber warfare, and digital forensics for the U.S. Air Force. I've been deployed on missions I can't even tell my family about. And just this morning, in a private ceremony on base, I was promoted to colonel. But none of that matters right now, because I'm standing in the middle of a hotel ballroom in Louisville, Kentucky, staring down a polished wooden stage lined with silver and blue balloons, and my father, retired Lieutenant Colonel Henry Donovan, just leaned in and said, "Don't embarrass me." He doesn't say it loudly, just enough for my ears only. But the weight behind those 3 words could flatten a tank. My fingers tighten around the glass of sparkling cider I'm holding. The ice taps nervously against the rim like my pulse. I feel heat rush into my chest, my ears. A dozen thoughts beg to get out, but none make it past my throat. The music swells behind us, one of those grand ceremonial military instrumentals played by a string quartet in the corner. Everyone's clapping, toasting, laughing. But inside me, dead silence. I'm not sure if I feel anger or shame. Maybe both. This is my dad's big moment. 35 years of service. His official retirement from the United States Air Force. A full ballroom of high-ranking friends, former wingmen, and family all gathered to celebrate him. And me, I'm just the daughter. The one he rarely introduces with anything more than, "This is Rachel. She works with computers. I came all this way, 6 states, 2 security clearances, 1 flight I barely caught to be here for him. To maybe tell him about my promotion, or offer a toast, or just be visible." But that sentence, "Don't embarrass me," is his way of saying, this isn't your moment. Don't steal my light. Don't act bigger than you are. As if I haven't spent my entire adult life minimizing myself so he could shine. I look down at my outfit, a navy blue dress that looks civilian enough. Neutral makeup. My hair neatly twisted into a low bun. I'd even taken off my uniform after the ceremony because I didn't want to upstage his moment. I played small, like I always do, and still, somehow, I'm embarrassing. The mic clicks as my father steps onto the platform, brushing past me like I'm furniture. The crowd cheers. Old pilots slap backs. My uncles hoot from the far corner. He flashes that charismatic smile, the one that made him beloved in every unit he led. "Thank you all for being here today," he begins. I never thought I'd survive 35 years and still have all my hair and none of my sanity. Polite laughter ripples through the room. I try to smile, but my teeth don't cooperate. Behind my father, there's a slideshow playing photos of him in uniform from cadet to colonel, his medals, promotions, change of command ceremonies. I spot one photo with my brothers at his commissioning, both of them in ROTC t-shirts, another one with my mother pinning his service ribbon on. I am in none of them, not even as a blurry face in the background, just gone. He continues, "I raised my kids with structure and pride. I taught them to work hard, stay grounded, and make smart choices." Another pause, and while not all of them followed my footsteps, they still turned out all right. A few people glance at me, just a few, not many. Because by now they've all heard the version of me my dad's been telling for years, Rachel, the quiet one, Rachel the introvert, Rachel the computer nerd who never quite fit the mold. They don't know about the 30-hour ops I've run in windowless bunkers in Europe, the intercepts I've decrypted, the cyber attacks I've prevented, the airmen I've commanded. They don't know I briefed senior Pentagon officials last fall, or that I earned a commendation for leading a countermeasure against a major overseas threat. They don't know, because I was never allowed to talk about it. And even if I could have, who would have believed it? Not him. I step outside to breathe. The ballroom doors close behind me with a muffled thump. I'm in the corridor now, carpeted in gold and maroon. A large mirror hangs across the wall. I stare at myself in it. I don't look like someone who holds national security in her hands. I look like a ghost at someone else's celebration. A hotel server walks by, carrying an empty tray. He pauses and nods politely. "Everything okay, ma'am?" I nod. "Just needed some air." He disappears down the hall. I consider leaving. My car is parked out front. I can disappear just like I always do. Quiet, unnoticed, dismissed. Until I feel a vibration against my leg. I check my phone. New message from A1 Secure OPS General M. Franklin arriving at event site 1842. Prepare for brief face-to-face. Uniform required. Confirm status. I stare at the screen. My throat dries. General Franklin, 3-star, head of Cyber Command. He's coming here, to this hotel, to this party, because he knows I'm here. And because earlier this morning, after my promotion, he shook my hand and said, "We don't let our new colonels disappear quietly. Let's make some noise." My heart hammers, not from fear, from clarity. I reach into my coat pocket. My colonel insignia glints under the lobby lights, still tucked in the lining of my blazer. Waiting for me to stop shrinking, waiting for me to let them see me. And inside the ballroom, my father is finishing his speech, the room on its feet toasting his legacy. But they have no idea. Not yet. The general is 5 minutes away, and this time I won't let anyone tell me not to embarrass them, because I'm not here to embarrass anyone. I'm here to be seen. My father, Lieutenant Cole Henry Donovan, was a giant long before he ever put on the uniform. Not physically, he's just over 6 feet lean, always straight-backed like a human salute, but in presence. In discipline, in dominance. The kind of man who didn't just walk into a room. He took it. And as a kid, I spent most of my early life trying not to take up too much space in his. I was born on a military base in Ramstein, Germany. My mom was a school teacher, the kind who read bedtime stories in different voices and packed notes in your lunch. My dad, he was everything she wasn't. Order, silence, iron. He never yelled. He didn't need to. A look from him could shatter your confidence. And even though I was his only daughter, I quickly learned what he expected from a Donovan. You stand tall. You speak only when you have something useful to say. And you never, ever ask for praise. My 2 brothers were made for that kind of world. Brian played varsity everything. Will joined ROTC at 17. They both inherited Dad's square jaw and booming voice. They'd follow him around the house like satellites, mimicking his posture, asking about medals and stripes and what kind of gun he carried in Desert Storm. I liked books, computers, silence. I built my first circuit board at 9 and hacked a toy drone to fly better by 11. But Dad didn't notice. Or maybe he did and just didn't know what to do with it. When I told him I wanted to join the Air Force, he didn't laugh. He just paused. Then he said, "You sure you're cut out for that kind of structure? From the man who alphabetized the spice rack and shined his shoes at 0600 on weekends." I don't think he meant it as an insult, but it landed like one. I graduated high school with honors, got into the Air Force Academy on my own merit, never asked him to pull strings. He didn't offer. The day of my commissioning, he didn't come. He said he had a logistics conference he couldn't miss, but he sent a text. Just 4 words make us proud. Dad. I framed that text. At the time, it meant something. Now, I'm not sure it ever did. Through my 20s, I worked harder than I thought possible. The technical path isn't glamorous. You don't get hero parades for firewall defense or algorithm design. But I excelled. I was stationed at Offutt, then Langley, then Fort Meade, promoted to captain, then major. I became fluent in 5 programming languages. I helped build early threat detection AI that still protects U.S. satellite systems. I once led a 48-hour counter-interference mission that, if it had failed, would have shut down power in 6 eastern states. Still, I'd get the same tired comment at family gatherings, "How's your little computer job, Rach?" Or the classic, "Are you still doing the tech thing? I guess someone has to do the boring work." It was always wrapped in a joke, a smile, a pat on the shoulder, as if I were just LARPing in the military world they understood, as if I didn't wear the same uniform, hold the same commission, and serve under the same flag. I stopped correcting them. Eventually, I stopped showing up altogether. Mom tried to bridge the gap. She sent postcards, left voicemails, tried to tell me, "He does care, you know. He just doesn't know how." But after a while, even her tone changed. She'd say things like, "He's old school Rachel. You're just different." Or worse, "Maybe stop pushing so hard. He's never going to say what you want him to say." Then came last year. The deployment, undisclosed location, 6 months underground. A joint task force of cyber specialists and intelligence analysts monitoring digital traffic from hostile states. The kind of assignment that changes your view of everything. When I returned, they pinned a citation on my chest. Quietly, no press. Just a handshake and a sealed commendation. I sent my dad a photo. I never got a reply. So when I got the notice of his retirement party, full military send-off official Air Force ceremony banquet slideshow, even the presence of some brass, I paused. Was I going to fly out? Show up just to be ignored again? Then I saw the date. It was the same day as my own promotion ceremony, from major to lieutenant colonel, and now, finally, colonel. I laughed when I realized the irony. Two Donovans being honored on the same day. One would be surrounded by friends, family, and stories. The other would stand in a briefing room saluting a flag in front of 3 witnesses, and no one would know. Unless I told them. So I decided I would go, but I wouldn't wear the uniform. I wouldn't fight for the spotlight. I'd let him have his night, his legacy. And maybe, just maybe, I'd get to see him beam at me, even once, even for a second. Back in the present, I'm still in the hotel hallway rereading the alert on my phone. General M. Franklin arriving at event site 1842. Prepare for face-to-face, uniform required. I look up. Across the lobby, a hotel attendant is pushing a tray of hors d'oeuvres past a large antique mirror. I catch my own reflection. Civilian, bare face, bare collar. And then I see it. Tucked under my coat where the fabric bunches slightly at the shoulder is the sharp edge of a polished insignia. Colonel, fresh, untouched, earned, and tonight finally seen, even if just for a moment. I return to the ballroom just as my father finishes his speech. The applause is thunderous. A few guests rise to their feet, especially the older ones men he served with decades ago. He raises his hand, modestly smiling like a polished politician. Not too proud, not too humble. Just right. The perfect military farewell. I blend back into the side of the room, standing near the edge of the curtain, invisible again. No one notices I'm back. Not my brothers who are busy taking selfies with Dad. Not my cousins who've gathered around the cake table. Not even my mother who's dabbing at her eyes but doesn't look around once. It's fine. That's what I've trained for. A career in cyber warfare teaches you how to move unnoticed, to operate quietly, to be powerful without spectacle. But still, I watch my father. He's shaking hands now with a group of guests from his old squadron. One of them, a burly man with a walrus mustache, nudges him with a grin. "Where's your girl?" he asks. My father doesn't even look around, just shrugs, probably off somewhere doing her laptop thing. My stomach knots. No one laughs, not maliciously anyway. Just politely, casually. Like that comment made perfect sense. I feel a breath catch in my throat, but I hold it. Because this is the rift that's always been between us. When I was 12, I won my first science fair. Built a voice-commanded robot out of old printer parts. I remember standing in the living room holding the ribbon, beaming like a fool. My father glanced up from his paper and said, "Huh, that's neat. But it won't help you lead anyone." He said it like a fact. And that's the thing about growing up with a man like Henry Donovan. He never yelled, never hit, never even cursed. He just measured you. And if you didn't fit the mold, you became invisible. I walk toward the back where the bar is. A low hum of conversation fills the room. Laughter clinks of glasses. Everyone seems relaxed, comfortable, belonging. Rachel. A voice behind me makes me stiffen. I turn. It's my cousin Tara. She's sipping wine, her red heels impossibly high, her makeup impeccable as always. "Wow," she says. "Didn't think I'd see you here." "Yeah, well." "Big day," I reply. She smirks. Still doing that tech thing. Like, "Computers, right?" I nod. Something like that. Then the blow. "My boyfriend says those jobs are kinda safe. You know, good for girls. No risk. No risk." I've spent nights in bunkers under foreign soil watching terrorist traffic scroll by like a death clock. I've sat in war rooms translating payload commands that if intercepted just seconds too late would level buildings. No risk. I smile. "Yeah," I say. "It's safe." I'm about to walk away when she adds, "Oh, by the way, your dad's speech was so good." That line about how you didn't follow in his footsteps but you're still trying your best, that was hilarious. I blink. What line? She frowns. Wait, you missed it. He said something like, one of my kids didn't choose the military life, but we still love her anyway. I feel something cave in my chest. He said that after everything, after commissioning, deployments, commendations, a promotion to colonel this morning. He said I didn't choose the military, that I wasn't really part of it. I excuse myself. This time, I don't go to the coat room. I go straight outside. The parking lot is half full now. The sky above the hotel is painted orange and pink, the last gasp of daylight. A faint breeze lifts the hem of my coat, and for the first time in a long time, I let myself feel it, the rejection, the betrayal, because that's what this is. It's not just that my father doesn't understand what I do, it's that he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to accept that I became a soldier on my own terms, not through combat or command of a squadron, but through intelligence, precision, and strategy, through silence, through code. I think about my team, the young officers I mentor, the interns who cry after their first 24-hour shift, the ones who still think they're not real military because they don't wear helmets. I think about how hard I fought to get here and how easily my own father erased it. I clench my fists. That's when I hear it, the low thrum of rotors in the distance. Chop, chop, chop. Steady, powerful, growing louder by the second. I turn and look up, and I see it. The helicopter. Not military green, black, sleek, aerial command grade. And it's descending, slowly, directly above the parking lot. Guests begin stepping outside, shielding their eyes, murmuring. From the cabin window, I see it the silver eagle insignia on the uniform of the man inside, General Franklin, and next to him, 2 officers from base security. My phone buzzes again. On site. Location confirmed. Prepare for entrance. I reach into my coat, unclip the collar buttons, pull my insignia from the pocket. As I snap the pins in place, I look over the crowd. They're still watching the sky. They haven't seen me yet, but they will, because tonight they're about to learn exactly who I am. The rotor wash from the descending chopper lifts napkins and leaves off the hotel's rooftop terrace. People are stepping out of the ballroom now, drawn by the sound, first out of curiosity, then confusion. I hear someone say, "Is that military?" Someone else murmurs, "No insignia. Blacked out. Must be government." I remain still in the shadows near the entryway, my coat now open, the eagle pins of a full colonel gleaming against my deep blue uniform. This was supposed to be my father's night. His send-off. His final moment in uniform, standing tall and celebrated. And yet, somehow, this moment is coming to me, and I feel nothing, no joy, no triumph, just an aching, empty kind of silence. Because moments ago, I realized something irreversible. My father didn't just minimize my accomplishments, he rewrote me out of his legacy. And that hurts more than I expected. I watch as the helicopter touches down its runners, kissing the tarmac with practiced ease. The door opens, and General Franklin steps out. No aid, no ceremony, just the quiet presence of power. He's in dress blues medals, polished posture, impeccable. He scans the gathering crowd until his eyes find me. He smiles. I step forward. At first, no one connects the dots. To them, I'm just some woman in uniform, maybe a staffer, a liaison. But then General Franklin says the words, loud enough for half the crowd to hear. "Colonel Donovan, we're ready when you are." Gasps. Necks turn. My mother drops her wine glass. My father, frozen on the patio with 2 retired squadron mates, squints toward me like he doesn't understand what he's seeing. Then I walk past him. "Colonel," someone whispers. "Someone else. Wait her." A group of young officers in mess dress actually stand at attention as I pass. It should feel powerful, vindicating. But instead, I feel the weight of something I can't name pressing down on my chest. The general nods. "You good to go, ma'am?" I blink. "Yes. Just give me a moment." He nods again and steps aside. I turn back toward the hotel. And for the first time all night, maybe the first time in years, my father meets my gaze. His expression is unreadable. He's not smiling. He's not frowning either. He just looks stunned, but not proud. Never proud. I step toward him. He doesn't move. I say calmly, "I was promoted to colonel this morning." He says nothing. I add, "You were invited? I even asked the base to send you the clearance instructions." Still nothing. So I ask the question I've never dared ask. "Why do you pretend I'm not one of you?" His jaw tightens, just a little. Then finally he speaks. "Because you're not." There's no anger in his voice, just certainty. He gestures vaguely toward the chopper. "The uniform me, this isn't the same. You never led a unit. You never fought in the field. You sit behind screens." My throat closes. I say, "You think Cyber Command isn't war?" He doesn't answer, just looks away, as if my very presence is a stain. I should scream at him, tell him about the nights I didn't sleep, the funerals I attended, the digital war zones I navigated while he was sleeping peacefully in some stateside base. I should tell him about the threats we stopped, the operations we salvaged, the lives we saved without ever pulling a trigger. I should tell him that his military is still standing because my team patched the security breach in the comm satellites he used for years. But I don't, because I know it won't change anything. He's already decided what counts as valor, and I never made the list. I step back, breathe deeply, say I don't need your approval anymore, and then I walk away, not with anger, with clarity, because sometimes the deepest loss isn't when someone walks away from you. It's when you realize they were never truly with you to begin with. I return to the general. He gives me a curt nod. "Ready, ma'am?" I straighten my posture. "Ready." We walk toward the vehicle waiting beside the helicopter. Before I step in, I glance one more time at the patio. The party continues awkwardly now, fractured. My mother is speaking to one of my brothers. My father is still watching me, arms folded. But now there's something else in his eyes. Not pride, not regret, fear. Because the world just recognized something in me he never did. And he doesn't know what that means anymore. The vehicle is silent as it glides through the gates of the hotel grounds. General Franklin sits beside me, his hands folded, eyes straight ahead. No ceremony, no small talk. He's always been that kind of leader, measured, deliberate. A man who doesn't waste words when silence carries more weight. "Rough evening," he asks at last gently. I nod. He told people I didn't choose the military life. The general exhales. "Well, some people still think wars are only fought with bullets." I glance out the window as the helicopter fades in the distance. It's not just that. It's who he needed me to be, and who I chose to become instead. Franklin doesn't offer a cliché. No, he'll come around, or he's just proud in his own way. He knows better. That kind of silence, generational, rigid, and bitter, doesn't just melt away. You learn to live in spite of it. We arrive at a secure facility near base. The building is industrial on the outside, but once the doors close behind us, it's a digital cathedral, glass-walled briefing rooms, giant server racks, holographic interface stations glowing in deep blue. This is my domain. I take a breath center myself and walk in like I own the place because in many ways I do. The general gathers the team in the war room, a dozen officers in their late 20s and early 30s, all dressed sharp, eyes alert. Some of them recognize me immediately. Others are newer, still unsure where I fit in the chain. General Franklin clears his throat. Colonel Donovan is assuming lead oversight on the Rook protocol starting tonight. A few eyes widen. That's a big deal. The Rook protocol isn't just another cyber exercise. It's a top-tier counter-infiltration program designed to predict and neutralize foreign state cyber attacks in real time, one of the most sensitive projects under Space Command. And it's mine now. After the meeting, I linger at my desk. Everyone else filters out. The room quiets. I stare at the blinking cursor on the screen, the console humming like a quiet heartbeat. And for the first time in a long time, I let myself feel something other than defense. Pride. Not the kind that needs to be seen. Not the kind that demands applause or a medal. but the kind that's forged from persistence, forged from surviving the silence, forged from knowing who you are, even when no one else does. I think back to who I used to be, the girl, too, afraid to raise her hand in Dad's presence, the woman who thought if she just achieved enough, maybe she'd finally earn his nod. No more. That was the old strategy. Plead through performance. This is the new one, lead through conviction. The next morning, I sit in my small on-base office, sipping black coffee when my email pings. Subject line, "You left early." From Mom, I hesitate. Open it. Rachel, your father didn't sleep last night. He's not saying much, but he kept asking about the helicopter, about your people, about why the general knew your name. I think it rattled him, not just the uniform, but that you didn't need his to become someone. I'm proud of you. Come by the house sometime. No pressure. Love, Mom. My chest tightens. It's not a reconciliation. It's not an apology. But it's the first olive branch I've seen in years. And maybe that's enough for now. Later that day, I walk past a group of junior officers in the hall. They fall silent, then one speaks up, "Colonel Donovan. I just wanted to say, your work on Omega Net saved us last year. I didn't get to say thank you before." I pause. Look him in the eyes. Smile. "You just did." He smiles back a little awkward and moves on. And I realize something else. I don't need my father to acknowledge me. I've already become the kind of leader I once hoped he would be. And that's a kind of closure, too. That evening, I stand outside the base dormitories watching the sunset. The sky is streaked with orange and violet, just like the night of the party. This time, no helicopters, just quiet. I take out my phone, scroll to my father's number. I hover my thumb over the screen. I want to call. Tell him he doesn't need to understand everything, just enough to know I'm not trying to embarrass him. That maybe in my own way I'm still following in his footsteps, just in boots he never learned to lace. But I don't press the button. Not yet. Healing is never a declaration. It's a decision, made 1,000 quiet times in the space between memory and hope. It's been a week since the retirement party, a week since the helicopter landed, since the general said my name in front of a crowd that never thought of me as more than a footnote in Dad's story. I've kept busy. Drilled with my team, filed new access protocols, tested a second-layer response for the Rook protocol. Everything sharp, everything efficient. But inside, something's shifted. I'm no longer trying to prove anything, but there's still one door I haven't walked through. So I do. On a quiet Saturday morning, I drive to my parents' house in Arlington. The neighborhood's the same manicured lawns, flags waving the kind of cul-de-sac where dogs bark politely, and neighbors wave with coffee mugs in hand. I park, cut the engine, sit still for a moment. This place used to terrify me. Not because anything violent ever happened here, no slammed doors, no raised voices, but because silence can be its own kind of violence. The door opens before I knock. It's Mom. She's wearing her usual cardigan, her hair pulled into that no-nonsense bun she's worn since I was in middle school. She doesn't say anything, just opens her arms. I let her hug me, and to my surprise, I don't tense. "I'm glad you came," she whispers. I nod. Me too. Inside the house smells like cinnamon coffee and old paperbacks. My father's war medals are still arranged in their glass frame on the wall near the fireplace. Photos of Brian and Will in uniform line the mantel, one from Iraq, one from a training graduation at Fort Benning, and then, off to the side, a single photo of me, in a classroom holding a certificate. 6 years old. That's the last picture of me on display. I swallow hard. "He's in the garage," Mom says gently. Of course he is. The garage was always his sanctuary. Toolboxes lined like soldiers. The smell of oil and polish. It's where he taught the boys how to sand wood, how to torque a bolt, how to stand like men. I knock once, then open the door. He's there, polishing the hood of a silver Mustang, the same one he rebuilt during my senior year of high school. He doesn't look up. "I figured you'd stop by eventually," he says. "I figured you'd say that." I reply. He sets the rag down. Doesn't turn around. "You came here for a reason?" he asks. I exhale. "Yeah, I came to tell you that I don't need your approval anymore." His back straightens slightly. I continue. I used to think if I earned enough medals, got promoted fast enough, did something big enough, you'd finally see me as one of you. He still doesn't turn, but I realized I say you only ever saw one version of strength, and I don't fit it. Silence. And that's okay? I add. Finally, he turns. His face is older than I remember, not just wrinkled worn, like the edges of a map that's been folded too many times. You're wrong, he says quietly. I blink. What? He steps closer. You do fit it. I just didn't want to see it, because it scared the hell out of me. Now it's my turn to go quiet. He continues. You fight battles I don't even understand. Behind screens, with code and satellites and things I couldn't explain if I tried. He pauses, and that means I couldn't help you, couldn't protect you. His voice lowers, so I told myself it didn't count. Because pretending it didn't count was easier than admitting I was out of my depth. I stare at him, and for the first time since I was a child, I see not a wall, but a crack in the armor. A human, not a colonel, just a man. He gestures to the workbench. There's a small wooden box on top. I built this after the party, he says. I open it. Inside is a nameplate, carved in black walnut. Colonel Rachel Donovan, Air Force, Cyber Operations. My throat tightens. He says it's not an official plaque, but I thought maybe you could put it in your office. I close the lid gently. Look at him. Then say you were wrong about one more thing. He raises an eyebrow. I smile softly. I did follow in your footsteps. I just used a different map. He nods. Once. We don't hug. That's not his style. But when I leave the garage, his hand rests on my shoulder for a moment. Just long enough to feel real. Just long enough to say everything he doesn't know how to say out loud. Later that night back at base, I place the nameplate on my desk. The wood gleams in the lamplight. Outside my window, the air is quiet. And for the first time in years, I don't feel the weight of being measured. I feel the freedom of being seen, on my own terms. The morning after placing the nameplate on my desk, I come in early, earlier than usual. The base is quiet at 0500. The air still carries that crisp cold that sinks into your bones before the coffee even kicks in. I flip on the overhead lights and take a seat at my terminal. The nameplate gleams faintly in the pre-dawn light. Colonel Rachel Donovan. I run my hand along the edge of the polished walnut. It's not just a gift, it's a message. And I think for the first time in my adult life, my father finally sent one that I can actually receive. There's a knock at my office door a few hours later. It's Lieutenant Serrano, one of our newer recruits, bright, inquisitive, and trying very hard to look like she belongs. Colonel, she says, standing at attention. At ease, Lieutenant. What's on your mind? She steps forward, uncertain. Permission to speak freely. Always. I just wanted to say thank you for what happened the other night. At the party? I raise an eyebrow. She continues. A few of us were there. Off duty. We didn't know who you were. At first. But then, when he called you Colonel in front of everyone. She pauses. That meant a lot to us, especially to the ones of us in cyber. Sometimes it feels like no one sees us. I study her face. The way her jaw tightens, the flicker of nerves behind her eyes. I nod slowly. I know exactly what that feels like. She exhales, shoulders dropping just a bit. It's easy to forget we're part of the same war. It is, I say. But don't forget this. Either wars are won just as often by the quiet ones as they are by the loud. She nods. And I see it. That spark. That thing I used to feel before the world tried to smother it. Later that week, I'm invited to speak at the academy. Not the main graduation, just a seminar for cyber warfare cadets. 30 of them fresh-faced and eager, some still unsure if their choice of specialization was brave or foolish. I walk up to the podium wearing my full dress blues. My insignia shines beneath the stage lights. I tell them the truth, that they'll be underestimated, that their strength will be questioned, that they'll be invisible until they're indispensable, and I tell them to prepare for that. Not with bitterness, but with quiet certainty. You are the firewall between chaos and order, I say, and most people won't realize it until it's too late. When I finish, the room is silent. And then a slow, strong round of applause. One cadet stands, then two, then the whole room. I don't cry, but something deep inside me unknots gently. That night, I get a text from my brother Brian. "Saw your seminar. It's going around base. Impressive stuff, Colonel," I reply. "Thanks, Major. I appreciate that." Another text buzzes through seconds later. "Dad printed out your photo, put it next to his retirement plaque. Didn't say anything. Just did it." I stare at the screen for a long time, then close my phone. Some things don't need a reply. A month later, the Pentagon calls. They want me to consult on a next-gen cyber warfare task force, joint military and civilian, high clearance, high stakes. It's not flashy, no cameras, no medals, just the hard essential work of keeping the world spinning without it crashing into fire. I say yes, not because I need to prove anything anymore, but because this is who I am. And every now and then, when I visit my parents' house for Sunday dinner, my dad still reaches for his old stories. Still chuckles with my brothers about real deployments and sand in their boots and nights under open skies. But he looks at me differently now, like he sees something he didn't before. Not a disappointment, not a failed legacy, but someone who built her own path quietly, steadily in the shadows. And I don't need his words anymore, because I've lived the truth. So, if you ever feel underestimated, if you've ever been handed a plastic chair while the world gives someone else the podium, remember this. Sometimes the most powerful titles aren't shouted, they're whispered by a general, right before the whole room stands still. Colonel, ma'am.